I'm with Colin Brooks of HSBC. Colin gave the keynote address yesterday, and Colin, in that keynote address, you talked about the need for a custodian to have critical mass to survive. Can you just define what you mean by critical mass?
Yes, I think by critical mass what I'm looking at is the ability to have sufficient revenue coming through and sufficient margin to be able to continue to invest in the business. So, I mean, in actual terms, what does that mean? I guess in a typical market you would need something like 25 to 30% market share for a sustainable revenue stream that enables you to invest back into the business for the benefit of everybody, both you as a sub-custodian, but also for your clients, so that you can bring in more efficiencies.
When you say 25 to 30% of market, obviously that is assuming that you're in a market which has a reasonable amount of activity. Within your portfolio, you have what I would call substantial markets, but you have a lot of very, very small markets. How can you justify the investment needed to create a presence in the small markets?
I think it's very much needing to provide a regional solution to clients. So if you take Asia as an example, you have the very large markets. You have Australia, Japan, you have Hong Kong, Singapore, and they need to be balanced by the smaller markets which are still frontier and emerging. So you have Bangladesh, you have Vietnam, for example. And to be able to offer clients a comprehensive regional solution, you have to have all markets. And quite frequently, it's the case that the smaller markets are those which are more difficult, where actually you can almost add more value in those markets because you insulate your clients from the difficulties in those markets.
I mean, looking at your portfolio, you have pretty well total coverage of Asia Pacific from the Indian Rim down to Australia, and you have total coverage of the Middle East.
Yes.
If I look at Latin America, you only cover the three big markets, and if I look at Europe, your coverage is slightly more patchy, if I can call it. How do you manage, what is the logic behind that structure?
Sure. I think if you look at the European markets, I mean, they have a natural, they're a natural extension of our strong Middle Eastern presence. So looking at the Mediterranean Rim, for example, with Turkey, with Greece, with Malta, our presence in UK and Germany reflects really the strong HSBC presence in those markets, and we have again that critical mass in those markets. In Latin America, though, yes, you're right, we have a presence. We provide services in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. Those are the three largest markets in the region. And to be frank, I would like to be able to expand that presence if the opportunity arose.
When talking about expanding presences and just talking about fees very briefly, you gave a very intriguing slide where you showed your fees had actually reduced by over 60% in the last decade. I know some of that was helped by volume increases, but we're in more difficult markets now. Can you give a prediction, indication as to where you think fees will be in 3 to 5 years' time?
Yes, I mean the reduction in fees was of course a reduction in fee rates. The business obviously has to be sustainable, and for that the overall fees need to continue to rise. Fee rates, I think, will only go in one direction. I think they will continue to go down. I think the important thing for the business is that, as you mentioned, that we see business volumes increasing at a faster rate than fees decline, because otherwise you're not going to get the investment back into the business.
So generally speaking, fees down but predicated on higher volumes and higher activity.
Precisely, yes.
Colin Brooks of HSBC, thank you very much indeed.